Good morning everyone, welcome back. So Friday we're working on the winter piece. So in the last video I said that I decided to weave into these little dark spots a grey. Printed on there was the green, just a different version again of green, and I just felt like it was a little bit too much green on green on green, especially when it comes to doing the leaves. I thought, oh, how am I going to define some of these spaces? Now I still have there that could be woven with this grey and down here, but I thought, no, I'm just going to leave it because I might end up needing that space for something else, whether this leaf gets extended into there, and I can always then come back with a little bit of green, this grey to sort of finish it off. So that's where I'm at. So I've sort of put a bit of a halt on the dark crevices of the piece, which is the grey. Now, little bird has had, using the DMC 3371, the chocolate colour, I have stitched along the branch just with an overcast stitch, a couching of it. No, it's not really couching because I'm not holding down a thread, just whip stitch over and over and over, but close together. I've also gone over these because I decided I'm going to leave them as they are. They're so pretty. So I just highlighted them with random stitches. Haven't done anything with the flowers yet. We'll see how that evolves. I've come down here into that flower. There is a petal here that I believe will end up covering that end. So I thought I'll just stitch in there. Can always stitch over it. Then I started looking at some of the other branches on this printed panel, and they were green. I thought, once again, there's a lot of green. So just to break up the design a little bit, I've stitched into there with the chocolate. There was a stem coming through here, so I stitched that one, and that one. So you can see on the back where all the chocolate stitching has popped up. So I feel like I'm sort of, I guess it's a dense floral image, and I feel like I'm breaking it up a little bit. Does that make sense? So yeah, that's where I'm at. Now remember, we have made these little guys to come in here as some three-dimensional elements. These were just little scraps off of the doily that I had cut up for another project and were sitting on my desk, these little triangular pieces. So I've still got those. See what I mean by that may or may not be green. It might be grey, but until we sort of, I guess, get there, I may not need anything because the little flower sneaks into there. Yeah, I just steady as she goes. So what I want to do today is I want to work on the leaves. Some of them I want to make three-dimensional because I've grabbed out earlier in the project these fabrics. So I think there's an opportunity to make some of them three-dimensional. So I should have here in my little waste basket some excess tracing paper that I was using the other day. Maybe I don't. Didn't think to grab that when I walked into the room. I'm pretty sure there'd be a snippet of it in here somewhere. Tiny bit. Okay, I might need to, see, I've been nibbling in it. Oh my goodness, I thought I had a bigger piece. I might need to pause the video and go and grab my baking paper, tracing paper stash, which is in the kitchen because it's actually baking paper. Yeah. Nope. All right, hold that thought, guys. The girl's not prepared like usual. She is needing to pause the video and I'll be back. Oh no, there's some. I knew there was a piece. Hang on. There we go. So you can use tracing paper. You can use baking paper. I probably wouldn't use greaseproof paper because it's got that surface that sort of doesn't allow it to easily be drawn on. Then just a pencil. And what I'm thinking is stitching some three-dimensional leaves into it before I have to stitch it all together with thread, like embroidering, I thought, why not, let's have a go at creating some little... So this piece is going to be very collaging. So I'm just going to make these little guys a fraction bigger than what I traced. So there's my little template for that one. It's really simple. And by the time you draw it, you've just added the width of the lead pencil. Then cut on the outside of the lead pencil edge. Then add it to fabric and cut it again. You find that your leaves get naturally a little bit bigger than what you originally traced, which is sort of what I like because it gives you wriggle room. You might need to trim them back a little bit because they're intruding on something you want to feature, or you want to cover maybe another colour that you don't like of a leaf. So by having them just that little bit extra in size as you sort of work this process can be very handy. So see, that's too pale. I feel like I want to go a little bolder. I like that, but I probably like that better. Let's just have a quick look at these threads because they'll end up in the mix as well. I think I'm going to go with that. I have that guy as well, but I'm thinking the olive is a better fit. So all I do then is make sure I've got the right side down. That seriously needs an iron. Is just pop it on there, the little pin, and the other one, and that's it. This is how I would collage some leaves into my piece. Now I don't want to do all of them, but I think there's a few that could be highlighted, like those two. That one, then it can come up over the tummy of the bird, maybe that one, maybe this one, and where it's cut off, because we're going to put that on the side, I can have the leaf coming into that. So that's the plan. So it's all about the leaves. I love doing this type of work. This is probably my favourite. I know I've said that 100 times, but adding texture with other elements of embroidery or crocheting or whatever it may be to enhance a piece, all-time favourite. So there's my little leaf. Yep, beautiful. Now that could be cut down a little bit, which is great. Got plenty of wriggle room there to shape my leaf a little bit more because it's got quite a little kick there. Just test it again, girl, before you get ahead of yourself. Come down a fraction on that side to get that wispy little... I look forward to Fridays because there's always a lot of work on these pieces for Stitch the Season. So I feel like I've got plenty I can settle into a Friday night and stitch. There we go. I need to trim that a fraction, but what I'll do is I'll stitch down first and then trim it neatly to the edge of the stem. I'd hate to have it wriggle around a little and then I find I've come up short. Now, as for stitching, what will we do? My obvious thought would be to stitch the veins and make it look like a leaf. But I'm wondering, what if I just do a simple running stitch so they look completely different to any that become veins? I think I might. So let's get this little guy sorted so we can see where he is. Now he's got a petal there. So I'm going to extend him past that flower. I'm going to bring him up over the chest of that little bird so that the petal will sit on top of the little leaf. Does that make sense? Oh, come here. If you've got tracing paper, definitely you can use that. If you don't, go to your kitchen and grab your baking paper. I presume that's everywhere. Maybe it's not. I know when we were doing the retreat in Ballarat with Susanna, and we're doing the village panel, we raced into Coles and bought what we thought was baking paper, but we inadvertently picked up greaseproof paper, and it didn't work because we couldn't get the pencil to sit easily on that paper. It was sort of resisting, if that makes sense. And we couldn't work out why, because I've used it 1,000 times. And then we've clicked what it is when we were chatting about a week ago, and we were reminiscing about how that just didn't work, what went wrong. And Susanna mentioned the word greaseproof paper, and I'm like, oh, hang on a minute, because I just grabbed some of this paper myself for a project. We twigged what it was. Greaseproof is a different product to baking paper. There we go. Leaf number 3. Let's head up to these guys up the top here. We may need to deal with that binding, you know. I'm going to make it a fraction bigger than what I need, because those flowers then will nestle over her. We may need to put the binding in sooner rather than later, due to the fact that these leaves on the perimeter are heading into the binding, which is really cool, because that's really, you know, making my piece look a bit more like it's creeping into another space. I did find my poem too, which I don't have here with me. I was looking for it in the last video, and I was starting to panic because it was genius. It was a piece of genius writing, if I do say so myself. I actually read it out to Susanna, and she says, "Ooh, that was pretty good." See, told you, it's genius. It's up there with the best wordsmiths of the current century. Just saying so myself. Oh my goodness. I think the one line is, with the warm blanket around your shoulders. See, genius, winter. Isn't it about a fire too? I'll have to dig it out again. It's on my phone, and I tried searching for it in the last video, or maybe the first video. I don't know, I've lost track now. And I just couldn't find it to read it to you guys. But when I was chatting to Susanna about the whole baking paper, greaseproof paper, the whole palaver that we were reminiscing on, I thought, oh, I'm going to have another look for it, because, gosh, I hope I still have it, because that would be very disappointing. Now, that leaf looks big to what is printed, so I might just sneak it down a bit. But where will we come in that side? Yeah. Admittedly, when I do those flowers, they are going to look big too. Everything gets just a little bit bigger when you do this type of work. So I'm okay with that. Because by the time I do all the mucking around here that I'm sure I'll do, because, you know, it always ends up bigger than Ben-Hur, doesn't it? Let's get this little guy next. So once again, in behind that petal and then out we go. Let's make him a good juicy leaf, because then that piece of trim can have him coming over it. I think before I get too ahead of myself, the next thing I might do is pick up that trim. Might be time to get that stitched. I was going to leave it near the end so that it didn't get manhandled in my hands as I was continuing the project. But I think it needs to go in because the little tip on this little guy needs to rest on it. I'm not even in camera when I'm trimming those. I've got scraps over to the side, so that's why I've sort of pushed my hands out of probably your field of view. But I'm sure you're all busy stitching. You haven't even noticed that she's off camera a little bit. Okay, that's a very big juicy leaf. That's something Jennifer would say, a nice juicy leaf. There we go. We have a nice juicy leaf there. Let's have a little look at this trim. Now the plan was to try and get it to sit under there. Or little leaf out of the way. Or would we come here neat, because it is hemmed. Sort of don't mind that idea. Sort of feels like it's a proper border then. And then this little guy would sit across like that. That little guy could come in as well. The flower is tucked behind, but I could extend petals so it creeps in there as well, which I think is what we're going to do. So let's pin this little fellow down. The other thing I might do along that edge is a synthetic invisible stitch. Do I want to keep it or do I want to remove it? I might leave it and stitch over it. Why unpick it only to stitch over it? So that will go there. That's good. Pin it. So pretty. Boho tree is where I got these, probably about 12 months ago. A little selection. And then I went back, once I saw the quality I got, I then went back and ordered some of their mix packs. They're on Etsy. Really pretty. So I've got a flower down here at the bottom. See how it's, if I cut that, I'm sort of nibbling into it a little bit. I might lift the piece a fraction so that I don't, oh, see now there's sequins. I might lift it a bit more and catch those sequins, I think. And bring that up. Be a shame not to have them. I'll just cut a little bit lower. No use being too tight. Now I can bring this back to here. So I'll go through and invisible stitch all of this so that it's not going anywhere. It's nice and secure. Then I might look at doing a running stitch down the edge of the piece. At least I don't need to seed stitch through this like that other one I did. I think it was summer. Yes, summer. It was like the embroidery, the backing they'd used to create the piece was, it sort of reminded me of a stocking fabric. And it just had this funny brown stocking fabric look. And I, just did not like it. So that's now in position. So some homework there. Now I can get my little leaf and bring that into there. I need to close the door to my studio because I can hear Gaz is in the kitchen making himself a drink for breakfast. So I might just pause the video and shut that door and I'll be back. I'm back. All right, so this leaf is next. And we can come down lower. And then I'll tuck in behind that big flower. Now the next thing, can I use a different green fabric to put in some more leaves? I need to have a think about that. There's a leaf there that could be something, or that gets stitched. And you don't bring in another, see? I think it needs to be stitched. Let me think. I think it's going to be stitched. I think I just need to start and see how it... There's a lot of layers here in this very dense foliage. So to define define them all is either lots of different stitched pieces and lots of different fabrics, but maybe there's not as much there as I think. And until you sort of start working them, now that I've shut that door, Fudge has heard that Gaz is up and he's now sitting at said door saying, how come I can't go out and see Dad? Of course, he was asleep and he's heard that door close, but he must have been stirring. If that leaf was done, it'd have to be fairly dark. See that one there? That one there? Then there's these little bits in the back which would just be green. It's interesting, isn't it? Do I revisit some of these fabrics? No, because there's not enough leaves everywhere else to make that logical. I think I need to stay with the one fabric and use my threads to sort of jump around and yeah. And maybe weaving is the way I backfill. These ones here, no problem, they're out on their own. So let's make a decision on what I'm doing to them. I'm thinking of just doing a running stitch around them, to be honest. Let's just try it, see what it looks like. I've got a fairly fine crochet cotton here. Maybe probably a number 12. Grab a fine needle. And I'm thinking of just doing a little running stitch. If that doesn't look right, I could use a thread similar colour, but I think we want to make it a feature, is what I'm thinking. And I'm just going to put a little bit of this art glitter glue on the edge of him. So I don't want the edge of the fabric to disintegrate because it's going to be more of a decorative stitch going into him than like an overcast or a, so he will need just a little bit of protection. Okay. He's safe. I think we can do little birds. He's not needing to rest on a trim that's not secure. So we can certainly get this little guy down. There will be bird to stitch under there, so I'm probably putting the horse before the cart again, but that's okay. I can sneak in there and make it look like the bird's tummy, you know, is all feathery and stitched, so I'm okay with him. These guys can certainly be put into position, can't they? So I'll just get the top of this down because I need to stitch, trim the bottom of it because it's riding up over. It's riding up over that little branch. Clean my nib, there's threads caught on that. Let's put that down for a second. And I just want to make sure that that nestles. Fraction more. Just a little bit. Keep that angle too because it's the right angle. That's good. Now we can add the last of the glue there. If you want a frayed edge to all your work, when you wouldn't need to do this step. Just depends on your look of your piece. Now this one, I might do this end first. When you get really tight points like that, they are going to break down, especially when you come along with needle and thread and force a needle into that space, it will break down and you'll lose the crisp edge. But if you've got a little bit of something there to stop the fraying, you'll maintain your edge. I do this all the time, so this is nothing new. My leaves have got a little bit bigger than the actual print, but I'm actually okay with that because we've got plenty of room up here and we've added this bird and yeah, I like that. I have a feeling I might do a 3-dimensional leaf here. We'll see. We'll see. So, is this the right thread for the job? Yeah. Now we can come back in and I want it real close. So I could fly stitch through the centre, which would look effective. But I sort of have done that before on previous pieces. So I'm thinking of making it look like it's quilted as just something different. That glue hasn't quite caught there yet. I'm probably brushing just a little stitch. I could really drop down and a needle would be good because then I don't have such a crowbar of a needle going through such delicate fabric. Could come along and lay another green slither into that leaf to make it look dimensional. But I don't think I will, because I think my flowers are going to be quite intense with layers and bits and bobs. So I'm thinking these leaves just need to be a little bit more subdued, if that makes sense. And I think this stitch and this thread I'll use to top stitch through that piece there. It'll help combine it all, I think. Sort of got a theme happening. One more stitch into there. Well, you know what I'll be doing this Friday night? Stitching. Yeah. Actually, I should have a look. I'm a week before you guys, but still Friday. So let me have a look at my calendar, because maybe when you're watching this, yes, this is episode 3. Susanna's with me. Oh my goodness. So I will be taking Susanna out on the town. Well, as out on the town as a pair of old ducks is. We'll probably head into Hervey Bay and find somewhere nice for dinner. Or maybe we just cook a barbecue. Oh, a roast. That's what we might do. We'll be doing something. And then, see, if we do a roast, then we can sit and stitch. See, that's what happened when she came to me last time. So we had all these grand plans for these outings, but we had lots of days where we just sat and stitched like birds of a feather. So, so I'm a week before the big grand Susanna visit. There we go. I'm happy with that. I think it's just going to add a little odd detail, like a little oddity, which I'm loving. It's all about the flowers, this piece. If you're thinking my leaves are a little bit on the safe side, wait until we get into the flowers. And I think when I did these little 3-dimensional pieces, that's in my head just clicked to, oh my goodness, the flowers are going to explode. So that's why I need to be careful that this is, you know, nearly subdued. What I might do is I'm going to remove this guy and this guy. And I'm just going to run. Is it all nice and straight? Yeah, straightish. Looks pretty good. Just going to run a quick invisible stitch down this perimeter here. Then with you guys, I want to try that running stitch down there to see that that's a definite. And that will probably be enough homework, I'm thinking. Let's get needle and thread together here. And a quick little sneaky knot. This sneaky knot's becoming a thing. There's a few people I've heard mention, let's do a sneaky knot so that we don't have to rethread the bloomin' needle all the time. Works really well on fine threads. When you start getting into these, you'd have to have a really thick needle, and then you probably don't want a thick needle because that's like dragging it through the fabric, which is putting excess pressure on your joints, and we don't want to be wearing ourselves out because we're all going to be stitching until we're 130. So we need to look after our joints. Look, I've got needles laying everywhere here. It's just like a bloomin' flick them to one side because the girl just wants to get stitching. So I'm just going to do a little stitch. that's another one that could come up and over. Definitely that flower, we could bring some petals out to there to make him a little bit more in your face and not so tucked behind. There we go. Just slithers straight through. This is Reg. He's not a bad lad. He's got himself a bad reputation because he's always jabbing me and he's sharp and thin, but he's a good lad. He works well for me. Like, there's pretty thick layers here of embroidery, and that fabric is like a upholstery fabric. Well, probably more of a curtaining fabric. It doesn't have a backing on it. We were debating whether it was a Sanderson or fabric or not. Does anyone recognise it or know? Unless there's labels on things, it's a bit tricky. Okay. Let's get some pin out of there. This won't take long. So what are you guys all doing while you're listening to me ramble along and figure this all out? Are you stitching, crocheting, knitting, cleaning the house with an iPad bud in your ear, listening to me? Good on you, doing some cleaning. I really need to do cleaning, but stitching beats me every time, doesn't it? Or I start something and then I'm like, that's enough. And break it down to a 12-day process of cleaning, where if I just got into it, spent a few hours, then it's done. I'm actually in the process of constructing a swinging daybed. I bought it online for a birthday gift for myself probably 2 years ago, and I said to my husband at the time, we were drafting the plans for this house, and I said, I would love a swinging bed that I can go and have a little snooze on outside on a beautiful sunny day. So I bought one for myself, and it has stayed in a box for 2.5 years because the house took so long to build, and it's finally here, and I finally had a moment to unbox the thing. And I pull out the instructions, which is a full book. So many bits. It's got like a canopy, then the bed piece hangs and it swings off chains. And the first sentence is, before you start, you may wish to seal or stain your timber. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I just want to build it. So I've got myself a little pot of stain decking oil. I used to use it in Brisbane on a deck, and it just is the best. I thought, make it and just hope it is fine, or stop, do what they say and seal it, and it'll probably last a lot better being out in the outdoor environment. I don't think it'll get wet, but if there was a shower of rain that really pelted in, it probably would. So, yeah, I'm going to stop at this edge because I may need to tuck something in there. So I'm just going to finish that off there, give myself options. So, yeah, I have put one coat on. Gosh, there was some timber in the box. My goodness, it just kept going and going. Might leave that threaded because I can use that as I come through and stitch again. Just going to reposition these pins so they're out of my way a little bit. So, yeah, I need to now do coat number 2. It's just turned into a palaver. Let's see if this is what we want to do. Yeah, I think so. Why does it look crooked? I don't know. I think it is. I think it's just the way the image is. I bet it's crooked. If your instinct tells you something's crooked, it probably is. All right, needle. We don't want reg. We want this. Did I put him back in? Where is the needle? Oh my goodness. Reg, where did your mate go? I must have. I put him in deep. Here he is, I think. No, that's not him. He was quite tall and slender. Seriously. Here it is. Oh, how did it flick over there? Oh my goodness. It must, oh, don't know, don't care. Just happens, doesn't it? Suddenly a needle shoots across the room. I remember I was at the Fleur Woods course earlier, a couple of months ago now, and the lady sitting next to me, she was adorable. She was stitching away, and I think it was the third day, or late on the second day, that's what it was, because the needle was found the next morning. It just flicked out of my hands. I was getting tired. Grip was starting to decrease, and I was getting weary, not hanging on to my needle tightly, and it shot through the air, and I heard a little clink, and I thought, well, that sounds like it's either hit the trestle table and then dropped, and it had gone down between us. So we had a really good look. We could not find it. So we're like, everyone, there is a needle on the loose here between our two chairs. Don't anyone step this side. Please stay to the side of us and we'll locate it. We could not locate it. Anyway, I had to go a little bit earlier, and my mate was staying for an extra half an hour. The girls were sitting there stitching, but I had to shoot off, and the next morning my needle was on my desk. It had landed down between us, and it wasn't until we sort of stood up and she said the light changed in the room that she actually saw it. So, I was so relieved. I couldn't believe it. And it was because I was getting weary. I was losing grip. And I was working some pretty thick fabric, and it just shot off. Oh, there was a lovely lady on a comment ages ago. I was talking about how Reg had disappeared into the couch, and I really should stop and find him. And she was like, please do stop, because she had a needle go into her thigh and had to be surgically removed. And I thought, that sounds like something Reg would do, because he's such a wispy fellow. Oh my goodness, I couldn't believe it when I read that. I was like, oh my gosh, they are dangerous. I like this. That connects to that. So we've got a bit of a style design element happening here. So what I'll do is we'll get up to where we stopped. My homework will be to invisible stitch this down, put a line of running stitch over there, then that's complete. Do the leaves and then start working on the backgrounds. How are we going for time? I think we had 20 minutes and I closed. I said we got time. Maybe I pick up needle and thread. And stitch some of these background ones. Nearly there, guys. Okay. So I'm not sure what the videos will actually be like while I'm with Susanna for the week. I have pre-recorded a few of the projects so that I'm not distracted with the daily stitching that I'm doing for the channel. I know we want to play with some clothing, so my guess is you might be seeing a few articles of clothing being embellished. You might be just seeing a pair of idiots running around doing all sorts of adventures too. Who knows? Like when we get together, it's a bit of a hoot. All right, that's as far as I want to go, just in case I want to manipulate that top edge. Okay, so that works a treat. Now, let's get these little guys back. Where were they going? Here. Yep. Let's get them attached. Flip him up. Little bit of glue on that edge to protect it. Down. And up. Try not to get this stuff on you if you do have some. And if you do, get it off pretty quick, because I hate to think. And I think a warning is on the newer bottles. Do not freeze or boil. Do not swallow. Keep away from your eyes. I've seen bottles of this with this may cause cancer warning sticker on it. This one doesn't have it. They've definitely changed that. This is a few years old. And I saw some in a shop and I'm like, oh, I could buy art glitter glue here if I need it. And of course I haven't needed it because I'm not doing as much journal making paper. Actually, I'm going to not glue down that far edge because I think I'll want to stitch in there. So I'll just glue this side. Probably once again putting the horse behind the cart, whatever the saying is. Okay, so that's okay there. And I can sneak my needle in there. So that's at least holding its own without getting damaged as well. All right, so that's good. So that's all my three-dimensional little elements put in. I honestly think that one needs to be one. Okay, let's do it. Got time. I think I need one more. Okay, quick and easy. Yep, fabric. Quick little trim. Pretty good. One little leaf and down you go. Once again, I'm going to leave that side open so I can slide my needle in there to do a little leaf. And I've got glue all over myself. Ooh, nasty. And I might leave that edge open. I think I got the glue down to that side. Yep. Leave it at that. All right. Put the glue away. Definitely doing this probably a little bit too soon. Let's have a look at this. I sort of feel like I like this colour. I'm going to be using a lot of it, so I'm going to really pull that apart. Nice and thick. Do I drop it back to 4? Let's try the full 6 strands. They can wriggle around a little bit if we get strands that are falling out of alignment. So I don't think I want to follow the artwork there. It's a little bit abstract and I think it'd be quite... So let's just pretend there's a vein going down the centre of that leaf. I need a sharper needle. So that keeps I guess an angle to my stitch. That's it. So we're just imagining there's I might draw it in actually, because sometimes my imagination gets distracted. So we're going to stitch down there. And this little guy would be there, and all my stitches come into that point. This little guy at the back here, let's bring it up there, and then I'll just sneak in to get my shape. This one here is a funny little leaf. There's like a background, and then this. We might pretend that that leaf is there like that. And there's my vein, and that can become background. So it might become grey. And then we'll decide what we do down there. So we need a few more leaves that look like they're in amongst it. So this one can be we'll call it a defined leaf with the V shaping to it. This one here can also be that. Here's a defined leaf. So there's one there, and one there. The rest is background. Okay, so there's actually less than I thought. That's background, there's background there, all right. And then the background could be another green woven in. And a fairly dark one, I think. Like darker than that. So there's my angle, all heading down. Try not to pull it too tight. You don't want the tension of your stitch pulling your fabric in. I haven't thought about backgrounds yet, like these stripes, how to process those. Something will come to me. This project might not even make it the full 3 months, which is not a bad thing because we got Christmas coming up fast on us. So to have it finished before Christmas would be fun because then I could go and start another 20 projects, okay? And of course the girls' new project, the Roxy Creations Field Notes, will be underway. Goodness knows how that will evolve and how much work goes into that. So you could change your thread and do the other side of the leaf in a different colour. That sounds like something. Okay. So to save a bit of thread, I'm going to pop up here and go down. And then to pop up here and go down. I probably should have done that at the beginning because I've chewed up a lot of thread. This is a good way of taking a bit of tension off your work too, because you don't have that wrapping. Probably have one more stitch and then I'll be finished off. Could easily bring another colour in there. Oh my gosh, will I be tempted? So you see where I changed my stitch for you newbies? That was over and under and over and under, and that was pop back up, scoot across the surface, jump across. You just reduce your thread usage by half. If I had have done that at the beginning of that leaf, I would have definitely had enough to finish my piece. Oh, I love it. Love it. Do we bring in that extra colour? Oh, I'm so tempted. Let's just have a little play, guys. We'll go to the other side of the leaf, or do we just stay deep? Oh yeah, let's just say deep. Because I'd say I'll be looking for an even darker thread for the background, like see that little bit just there. So let's show a little bit of shadow by bringing this colour in down here. Now it's not a perfect match if you were to look at a colour chart, but I'm okay with that because it does add interest to your embroidery if you're a little bit off centre from a matchy-matchy. But it does take you to be a bit brave. It's like when you play with red, you might go more of an orange red and then a more of a bluey red. But together, it can help your eye to go, okay, there's something happening with that leaf. There's a shadow there, that's what I'm trying to say. Can help you show new growth on a leaf or a new leaf, having a paler one. Like this little guy, he could be paler. He could be maybe even wool, just to mix it up a little bit. See, now my thread's mucking around. It is, let's just let it settle a little bit. I've got a little thread there from a previous stitch that has jumped up out of the stitch. So I'm just going to back up. So if I don't get it, there we go. See, that's him there. See how he's just come away? You could, to help that a little, you could break these down into individual threads and then give them a little smoothing with your fingers. When you watch the professional embroiderers, they do that. Then they bring them back together and they perform beautifully. But the girl doesn't have time for that. This is more instinctual stitching. Just go for it, boots and all. So I'm just dropping that down into the flower below, because then the flower below will come up. I might do a couple little stitches in under there as I work my way back up. And I've got a little bit of thread left, just a little bit there. So I might as well use it. Meeting all those other stitches there in the middle. And then I will change over to the olive again. Just covered by that leaf. But I could now even shape him a little bit differently if I needed to. We'll see. Just get this thread all used. I do want to bring out a wool. I really feel like I could go to town make these leaves quite interesting and a bit of everything. I don't know. Okay, I think I've got one more stitch in me as it peeks through. Maybe two. If I could get just past that line, then it doesn't look like the olive is exactly the same. I've sort of gone past a little bit. See, I got so much further with that length. It does pay to be a bit tricky with the way you place your stitches. If it means you save thread, well, gosh, sometimes these threads, we've only got the one and we don't know where we got it and may not be available anymore, and you want it to appear in many a project. So let's just get this. I don't know what time it is. I've lost track of time. So now I'm just bringing that up there. I think if I bring wool in, I'm not going to have enough leaves to showcase it, is my concern. And the wool that I've got is very much probably more for flowers to tie it all together. So we're going to forget about that idea, girl. There we go. Well, what's the time? Let me have a look. Oh, yes, we're definitely on the hour. So I might toddle off. I think you guys have got the general gist of what I'm going to be doing. I'll get all this greenery sorted. Now, whether there's a video next Friday with this project, I don't know. Let me have a look at the dates. It'll be the 28th of June. Who knows? I might be finishing a project that I started with Susanna, and this piece might get bumped back a week. Who knows? You never know. Each morning is a different video for a different project. So you never know what you're going to get, do you? Yeah. It's good when you swoosh your threads down too. I saw that on a video. She was a Japanese textile artist. I need to redo those two stitches because the threads are starting to bump around. She was demonstrating at a fair, I don't know who it was now, and she laid stitches down and said, don't be afraid to mush them in. And it really makes a difference. They settle into the fabric. Sort of makes the piece look like it's been laundered and it's older than a puffy. That's better. A puffy. I'm going to wrap the next stitch as in go underneath. I just want to make sure I'm joining up that vein properly. So I might just wrap the next two stitches so I can use my needle right where I want it. That's pretty good. It's got a bit dark in there. I couldn't see real clearly. Oops, see, I've just come out of the same hole. Keep wrapping, girl. And down we go. Is that the right spot? Yep. Well, if I don't say goodbye, I'll blooming keep stitching, I know. Let's just finish the leaf, then I'll be happy. You guys aren't going anywhere, and if you were, you would have paused me and left by now. There we go. Now we're getting some tiny little stitches to finish this off. I've got such a blunt end to this needle. It's a cruel needle. It's more designed for a ribbon. I need to hunt out a better needle for when I sit down to actually stitch this. All right, might just do an upward stitch there to get that finish. There we go. There's my little leaf. That's not a knot. I know it's not a dress, so that embroidery can, you know, fall apart when you launder it, but still, let's at least get a little knot there. Okay, guys. We have a plan. We have a plan. Bit of everything leaves. All right, guys, I'm going to say goodbye and go and work on my leaves, and I will catch you another Friday and show you what I've done. All right, bye.